Hello and welcome to Oddspedia Premier League Match Day 3. The match day we are going to see and watch Man United Liverpool, and of course we have Tom Rennie to analyze with us the transfer market and everything that we want to hear from the Premier League. Hello Tom, sunny day in London I can see.
It's always sunny every day. London, famed for its wonderful weather. Didn't you know?
I know. I was living there for a while and I was amazed about the great weather you have. So enjoy the sunshine while we play some bets, hopefully winning ones in the Premier League Match Day 3. And before, of course, don't forget to press the like and subscribe to our channel. Tell your friends because Tom is very good and very funny and really entertaining and he knows a lot about the Premier League. So what are we waiting for? Let's go on for the show. And another showman is Antonio Conte. We cannot have any doubts about him. Tottenham Wolves is our first game. What a handshake. It's going to become very famous between Conte and Tuchel. Good game. Overall, this Chelsea-Tottenham, 2 goals, 4 goals, 2 all. Spurs 4 points, both games that Spurs played, by the way, both teams to score if you want to bet on this one, but I'm not sure if you will trust Wolverhampton to score any goals in the north of London, Tom.
Yeah, it's a very good point about Wolverhampton Wanderers. They are trying to be more attacking, but they're not there quite yet. We'll get to them. Let's start with Tottenham because I thought they played quite poorly at Stamford Bridge last weekend. It wasn't a great performance from Tottenham. I expected better in terms of performance from Tottenham, but it seemed a bit disjointed. It seemed a bit disorganised. It seemed fragmented. They were struggling against this Chelsea team who, I think Chelsea played better than we expected, right, as well last week. I think that was quite an interesting game between these two. In terms of Tottenham, I think that the front three works fantastically well. The rest of the team still needs some work. And going into this game, Romero, hair puller in chief, out for up to 4 weeks. So we'll probably miss maybe until the September international break. That is an issue for Tottenham. There isn't really a quality backup for the trio of Romero, Dyer and Davis, who work so well together as a trio. Also a bit disappointed to see Emerson Royale and Ryan Sessegnon as the wing-backs for the first couple of weeks. I think Perisic coming on for Son at the weekend. I think it's about time we saw Perisic in the first team and Emerson Royale vacate the first 11 for Tottenham Hotspur because he just isn't quite, I don't think, to the standard that Antonio Conte would require. But the good news about Spurs, you alluded to it there, 6 goals in 2 games. They're going to score. They can score against anyone at any time. And I think maybe the safest bet of the season at the moment is Tottenham to score. In every game, whenever they play, Tottenham Hotspur are going to score. They are surprisingly offensive at the moment. They need to shore things up defensively, but offensively, they have been impressive. So I'd be looking here certainly for Tottenham to score. And the great thing about Tottenham is you've got 3 goal scorers. So if you are a flutterer on the first goal scorer market, you've always got Kulusevski, Son and Kane. And I think Son is always a really, really good tip for first goal scorer. Kane and Son to score is always around 5-1 as well. And they've done it so many times together in so many games, that's always worth looking at. For Wolverhampton Wanderers, the creativity isn't quite there yet. I hope for their sake that Matheus Nunes is able to play from Sporting this week. They brought him in. Guedes from Valencia the week before. Hopefully, that'll add some offensive endeavour to their good defensive organisation. But they're certainly not at this moment in time an interesting team to watch. I think they will try and compete with Tottenham in this game for 20 minutes or so, and then I think Tottenham will come to the fore. So I'd be looking here for Tottenham to win, Tottenham score in both halves, at least 2 goals in this game, and I still, having not seen Guedes or Nunes as yet, I still wouldn't be backing Wolverhampton Wanderers to score against anybody, anytime. Tottenham win, goals in both halves, Wolves don't score.
All right, if we go only for the goals market, 2.75 goals have odds around 2. And we have David asking you a very interesting question, actually, Tom. Is that Scamacca behind you?
This is Gianluca Scamacca. This is the programme for the West Ham Man City game last week. And so I thought I'd update my background with the occasional programme from games I'm going to. And that is the soon-to-be Premier League top scorer. And Spock as well. I'm not sure he plays for anybody.
It's kind of an altar, like you pray every day or something like this?
Yes, and so far it hasn't worked. So hopefully tonight's the night.
All right. And Armin is telling us something that I completely agree. Antonio Conte is a very scary man. I think we've mentioned in this show before that we don't want to cross paths with Antonio Conte, especially if it's dark at night. Antonio Conte, stay away. Next game, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa. Very tough start for Crystal Palace. They have 2 tough games against Arsenal and Liverpool, but they got a point in Anfield, so praise to them. We have to say this is the first winnable game against Villa, who won against Everton in the clash between Gerrard and Lampard. Odds are pretty much the same for Palace or Villa, but Palace is still slightly favourites.
What I like about this game is that I can see 2 scenarios. One being there are no goals scored. The other, there are lots of goals scored. I can't see this being a narrow 1-0 win either way. I can see this being goalless, or I can see this being 2-2, 3-3. So I think the draw market at 3.4, which will go up to near 4 come the weekend, is really, really interesting here. On Crystal Palace, defensively, superb at Anfield, as they were, to be fair, against Arsenal for long spells too. Joachim Anderson, brilliant performance winding up Darwin Nunez. Mark Gay, fantastic. Joel Ward was great in a 3. So I wonder if they'll continue that this weekend. Really impressed as well with the offense. Hopefully Michael Olise will be fit to start. You throw him in with Wilfried Zaha, scored an Henry-like goal at Anfield at the Cop End. And Ebere Eze, who, I mean, his setup play for the goal, exceptional stuff. So I think this game may well play into Palace's hands as they will cede possession to Aston Villa, who, they beat Everton last week, but was anyone particularly impressed by what they were able to provide offensively? Great individual goal from Danny Ings for the first, but, Watkins and Ings and Watkins, is it going to work? How's it going to work? Can anyone make it work? So far, Steven Gerrard and Dean Smith before him unable to do so. So I think they go with Ings and they drop Watkins for this week. That may give a better balance to Aston Villa's offense, but defensively issues because Diego Carlos signed for big money during the summer, injured. Huge injury. Going to miss at least till the World Cup, probably after that as well. Horrible injury. We wish him well, but that means that it's going to be Tyrone Mings and I think Courtney Hawes is out, so it means Ezri Konsa, and that's the central defensive pairing that Steven Gerrard didn't want. He wanted to replace them both, and now he's got to play him again. So that's issues there for Villa. In this game, I think 2 even teams. I would favour Crystal Palace if I was going to pick a winner and suggest a winner, but the draw market here is what I'm looking at. Go for under and the draw. So that's under 2.5 on the draw, which is 1-1-0-0. I don't see it being particularly exciting. I wouldn't be surprised to see Palace score the opening goal and Villa score late on.
Okay, if this is not exciting, the next one I think is less exciting. Everton, Nottingham Forest, because I'm not excited about any Everton game. I have to say this is a 6-pointer for the relegation, even if we are in August, apparently. And the things that we thought in summer that Everton were gonna struggle in this season, I guess it's gonna happen because they've had a very bad summer and they've had a bad start of the season against Chelsea and Aston Villa, 0 points. Whereas for Nottingham Forest, I guess they have to be happy, in these 2 games, 3 points. That victory against West Ham after the defeat in the opening game against Newcastle. The odds are for Everton, but I would never put my money on these odds for Everton.
I agree completely. Even at 2-1, Everton would not be a pick for me. I wouldn't put my money on it because I just don't know what they are. I just don't know. We went through the back end of last season with Frank Lampard, and it was needs must. Had to do what he had to do to get them up, and he did it. So congratulations on that score. But you watched last week, and they went 3-4-3, which I think is going to be what he wants to do. But more of a 5-2-3, right? But he wants to get the wing-backs being wingers. He wants to get 3 centre-halves because he doesn't really trust anyone in particular. And to be fair, Tarkowski, Holgate and Connor Cody is a pretty decent 3, actually. But offensively, Dwight McNeil and Damari Gray are not great. I mean, they've got abilities and they've got skills, but I mean, they're 2 of the most inconsistent performers. No manager has been able to get consistency from Dwight McNeil and Damari Gray, and we're seeing that now. A little flash, disappear for an hour. And Anthony Gordon, head died by his sister during the summer. He's not a centre forward, right? He's just not a striker. They haven't got Calvert-Lewin. He remains injured. And I just don't really know how Everton are going to score a goal. Calvert-Lewin out for another month. So that's got to be fixed in the transfer window. Where's the striker? Who's coming in to perform that role for Everton? I mean, the good news was I thought Onana came on last week and gave a real good energy. I'd expect him to come in to replace potentially Iwobi in central midfield, who's done a good job for them. But I'd move Iwobi out to wing back, drop Mikalenko or Patterson, and I'd bring Onana into midfield to provide that energy from the start. So there's some positives there maybe for Everton, but defensively the issues remain the same. For Nottingham Forest, I mean, look, let's be honest about last week. They should have lost. West Ham should have scored about 4 in that game. The penalty, the open goals, the crossbar being struck. There was a great frenetic energy about the City ground, and neutrals quite rightly will be pleased that they won the game and the fans deserved it after 23 years away and all that. I don't take that away, but they weren't the best team on the field against West Ham, right? So, and they were also not the best team on the field against Newcastle. So there's concerns there about Nottingham Forest. Plus, it's real difficult at the moment to tell you how they play because they made 15 signings. Remo Freuler came in from Atalanta this week. Sheku Kouyaté came in on a free, once for Palace and West Ham. Emmanuel Dennis has come in. We already know about Lewis O'Brien and Jesse Lingard and yada, yada, yada. So, I think it's going to be interesting to watch them. I do know that Steve Cooper's a good manager. I do know he likes to play offensive football from the outset. And I think they're going to go to Everton brimming and filled with confidence. And at 4-1, I'm not sure it's worth even being too complicated here. Don't back Everton. Draw maybe. But at 4-1, it's gone to 4.3 as we record. That may well be 5-1 by Saturday. If that gets anywhere near 5s, it could just be easy money here. I quite fancy Forest. It's daring, but at 4-1, that is worth your time. That is worth a tenner of anybody's money because Forest look like they're a team who can score, can defend, wind in their sails. And Everton right now, I wouldn't put your money, let alone my money, on them to win. So go basic. Forest win.
Okay, let's take it. Even if we go double chance as suggests, is telling us odds are around 2 for Nottingham Forest. Double chance, Tico, by the way, welcome Tico to our live streaming. He is trusting Everton. Good luck with it. Good luck.
So you're not listening then? Okay, fine. Welcome to the stream, but just ignore me. That's fine.
Maybe he said that before listening to you and now he changes opinion.
Let us know.
Exactly. Next game in London, West London, Fulham, Brentford. This is a real derby because both grounds are very close. No defeats yet for both teams, and great comeback for Fulham to the Premier League. No defeats against Liverpool, against Wolves. What is even more strange, Mitrovic, our great friend Mitrovic, he's scoring goals in the Premier League. We thought, no, he could not do it. But here we are. Whereas for Brentford, great also for them, free flow, scoring 6 goals in the first 2 games. We all know that thrashing result against Man United. So positive vibes in the west of London.
Yeah, well put. I think that's exactly right. Positive vibes for both teams going into this game. On Fulham, they certainly weren't as impressive against Wolves last week as they was against Liverpool on the opening day. And it's worth noting too, 2 performances and respectable results, sure, but it's 2 points. It's 2 points from those games. And we know with newly promoted teams, when they get to game 12, game 15, things tail off. It might be different this year because of the World Cup and all that. But these first 10 are so important for newly promoted teams before we figure them out, before we learn how they play and what they do and this sort of stuff. And then tiredness kicks in and the enthusiasm of being up wanes. And Mitrovic too, of course, missed a penalty last week. So as good as he was the first week, you missed from 12 yards the second week. You're the striker. I'm always of the opinion the striker takes the penalty, so that's great, but the striker should score the penalties. And of course, he missed the one last week against Wolverhampton Wanderers. So some issues there for Fulham to work out, I think. And also, it's how the new defence comes together. I expect Diop to come in to pair with Tosin and Ream to drop out. That's going to be, I think, better for Fulham compared to Tim Ream, who's had a good couple of games. But I think he needs replacing. I think that'll need to happen. Maybe Shane Duffy comes in for Tosin as well, potentially, of the other defensive signings they've made. And what to do about Bernd Leno as well. Rodak continues in goal, but you bought Bernd Leno, so surely he's going to be your number one. That little flux might be a concern for Fulham going into this game. So Really interesting on this one. There won't be the same sort of fervent atmosphere there was at the Cottage for Brentford as there was against Liverpool. That could be a concern as well. As for Brentford, I was doing that game last week and they were sensational. But, they had easy pickings against Man United. That's not to be disrespectful, but they put the tall striker on the little defender and pumped it long to him. They pressed high against a team with no confidence trying to play the ball around in their own penalty area. They had one goal going where David De Gea would save that 99 times out of 100, 999 times out of 1,000. Like he wouldn't let in goals like that he let in the first goal last week. So, good for Josh Da Silva, sure, but not a particularly good goal to score. I think this game's going to be high energy. I think that's something we can be sure of. I think you've got Fulham that at home will want to get that second win against local rivals. Brentford only know one way to play. High energy, get after them. So I can see two high lines getting caught out here. And I can see this being goals galore. I can see this being goals in both halves. I'd be looking for the game average to be over 2.5. So pick a winner and go over 2.5. That's 2-1, that's 3-1 either way. But I think goals, goals, goals. Pick your favourite winner, but go the over.
All right, even both teams to score than David and Scandi are suggesting with odds 1.7 can look good. Brentford aiming for the Conference League spots. David is asking you, this is a bit too much, no?
No, I put them in the mix. I wouldn't discount that at all from what I've seen so far. It would be an outside bet, obviously, but if anyone could go on a run of wins, and it's runs of wins that get you there in the end, I'd put Brentford in that group. They are capable of winning 4 or 5 in a row. And if you do that, you'll be in the mix.
All right, optimistic then about Brentford. Difficult to be optimistic, I think, with Leicester and Southampton, both with 1 point in these first 2 games. And they have a thing in common, is that we are seeing a lot of goals in their games. So perhaps we see also goals galore in the King Power Stadium, Tom.
Yeah, another over for me this game. Look over 2.5, maybe over 3.5 goals in the game. That'll be 3-1. That'll be 3-2. I can see it. I can see it right now because Leicester, they haven't made improvements to their squad, right? It's been really discussed now for a few weeks. What's happening with Leicester City? Where's the cash flow? What's happening? Only Alex Smithies from Cardiff as a backup goalkeeper has come in during the summer. Is Maddison going to stay? Is Tielemans going to stay? Is Fofana going to stay? So you've got all those issues. But on top of that, just on the field last week, Amati, Evans and Fofana as a 3. I don't think it worked. Tielemans and Didi Dewsbury Hall was a trio in midfield. I don't think it worked. And Maddison behind Vardy. Yeah, to a point it did work, but I think it worked for James Maddison. I don't know how much it worked for Jamie Vardy. So you've got all sorts of issues there, both defensively and offensively. Plus, look, I know Kasper Schmeichel wanted to go, and I know that he had to get his wages off the books, right? So that's fine. And he wanted to go play for Nice, and they're going to have Champions League football. But Danny Ward is not a Premier League goalkeeper, okay? To put it kindly, he has been a career backup his entire career. And last week, he drops the ball for Xhaka's goal at Arsenal, and it cost Leicester the game or something from the game. It was all over from that point. So they haven't got a good enough goalkeeper. They haven't got a good enough defence. They've not sorted out their issues conceding from corners. And at the moment, they're changing formation more often than I change my underwear. Like continually, what is the formation? 4 or 5 times a game. 3 at the back, 4 at the back, 2 in midfield, 5 in midfield, 2 up front, 1 up front. It's a mess. It is a complete mess. The trouble is, it's also a mess at Southampton at this moment in time. There was a news story doing the rounds a couple of days ago that some of the senior players had lost faith in Ralph Hasenhüttl. There's a news story doing the rounds. The hierarchy at the club might have started to lose faith in Ralph Hasenhüttl. However, I would suggest that last week against Leeds, the players showed they haven't completely lost it. I would refute those stories on the evidence of the game against Leeds. 2-0 down, not playing well. It's not a strong squad. And Aribo and Walker-Peters scored in the last 20 minutes to get a 2-2 draw in that game. Saints are going to struggle this year. They're going to be in the bottom 5. It's a battle to stay up. The key for them is to get the senior players on the ball, on the field, James Ward-Prowse and Stuart Armstrong. But defensively weak. Bednarek, Salisu, poor last week, I thought. Salisu especially poor in both games. So I think 2 bad defenses. And I think 2 teams that have got, at the moment, a freedom to go out there and try and win, because what else you're going to do? They can't hold on. So I've been looking at the draw market. 4-1 is lovely for this game. The draw market and over 3.5 goals. That tells me 2-2. That maybe tells me 3-3. If you're going for a double chance, take Leicester at the moment. And for the foreseeable future, I won't be backing Southampton win.
Or Vardy to score. Many people are trusting him to score 2-3 goals since this should be a high-scoring game. Could be. No?
Don't know about Vardy at the moment. I mean, look, never bet against Jamie Vardy. We've all learned that over the years. But at the moment, they are not getting the best out of Jamie Vardy from what I've seen in the opening 2 games. How you do that now, that's the big question for Brendan Rodgers. The team remains built around him, but at the moment, something's not firing.
And the last game on Saturday, we have Bournemouth. Arsenal, things have changed for Arsenal. I remember last season at this stage, they were bottom of the table. Now they are top with 2 victories out of the 2 games they've played against Crystal Palace and Leicester City. Another test against Bournemouth because they won their only home game. 3 points also for this promoted team. I think what we've learned in these 2 games is that the newly promoted team are going to put a fight. I asked you at the beginning of the season if there was a new Norwich. So far, there is not, I guess, because they are all competing at least.
No, it's a fair point that we haven't got a new Norwich yet, but I do think the first 10 games, as I mentioned earlier, very different to what follows. At the moment, there is a new enthusiasm to the promoted teams. Forest, we don't know what they are at this point, and for Bournemouth and for Fulham, at the moment, it's all exciting, it's all new, big results, great atmospheres. When the weather turns and the stronger squads show us why they are the stronger squads, you know, the league will shift, and, you know, the likes of Man U and West Ham, who've had a bad couple of games, they'll start moving up, and the likes of Bournemouth and Fulham, they'll start going down. That's what I would expect to happen. That's what always happens. With Arsenal, let's start with them. I fancy them for 4th. They're in my pick for the Champions League places this year, mainly on the strength of how good Gabby Jesus was in pre-season. And now it's 5 goals in his last 3 appearances for Arsenal in all competitions. That's an inspired signing. Perfect fit for the other players they have going forward, Bukayo Saka, Martin Ødegaard, and another, Martinelli or Smith Rowe or whomever else they put in there. In midfield, Thomas Partey and Xhaka look a good pairing. Saliba scored an own goal last week, so there might be a conversation about bringing Ben White back in alongside Gabriel centre-half. But beyond the full-backs, I wouldn't have a great deal of concern about Arsenal right now. And they've already shown us in games like this, where historically they've lost, certainly when the pressure's been on, they showed us at Palace they can win games like this. So I expect them to come out of the traps firing here. And Arsenal to win and Gabby Jesus to score is a lovely little double here. Jesus to score is 2-1. Arsenal win and both teams score 4-1. Certainly be looking at those 2. For Bournemouth, look, I think that they aren't going to be the Eddie Howe Bournemouth that we sort of remember. They aren't going to be the gung-ho Bournemouth that we all remember. Plus, what did we learn about a loss against Man City last week? We learned nothing. So it's not even worth us thinking about last week. The previous week, some really good performances from Dominic Solanke and from Jefferson Lerma, 1 or 2 others. But look, I have doubts about Bournemouth. I think the squad is weak, and I think that they will struggle as the season goes on. I don't see much change out of Arsenal here. I can certainly see Bournemouth being a threat in the opening 20 minutes. I'd even back them to score in the opening 20 minutes. But I think Arsenal will get stronger and stronger and stronger as the game goes on. So here I'm looking, both teams score, Arsenal win. Look for the Arsenal goals in the last 20 minutes of this game, and you get that for about 4-1.
So yes, it's destination handicap for Arsenal, minus 1.5. Well, the line is there. You have odds around 2.0 because the odds for Arsenal to win are very low, only 1.5. Tom, let's move on. On Sunday, this is a very interesting game. Leeds Chelsea, because it's been a beautiful start of the season for Leeds and for Jesse Marsch, also following the trend that they had at the end of last season with the American manager. 4 points with 3 goals scored by Rodrigo, and this is big news as well. And now a big challenge against Chelsea. You mentioned that you were surprised by their performance against the Spurs.
Yeah, I was. Let's start with Leeds, because I think that they have... You can see why they hired Jesse Marsch, right? We're all seeing it now. The Bielsa way of doing things is adopted by Jesse Marsch. It's how he's played his entire career whenever he possibly could. So I didn't quite work out at Leipzig for him because he tried to make them really offensive, and they just had Julian Nagelsmann in charge, who is a little bit more of a cautious coach. But he's a more organised Bielsa. And I know that's really basic and there's more to it and there's books written on it, but that's basically it. He's a more organised Bielsa. And we've seen that the first couple of games. And he's also brought players into Leeds, United States of America, who he knows and will do the job for him. I think Brendan Aronson's been superb the first couple of games. Really impressed by Tyler Adams last week. But also we can see the soft underbelly in the game against the Saints last week as well. So it's still harem scarum. It's still up and down. It's still goals at both ends. I think this will be a better game than the one we got at the back end of last season, where Leeds were kind of writing this game off to win other games down the line. Lukaku scored for Chelsea and they won, 3 or 4, I think it was, on the day. So Leeds will be in this game. Leeds are going to go for it in this game, and Leeds will try and outrun Chelsea. For Chelsea, they've been better, actually, than I thought they would have been. I didn't have a great deal of faith in Chelsea in the first couple of weeks, but it was a professional, if boring, performance against Everton first week, and they were the better team against Tottenham last week and were unlucky not to win that game. In my view, both goals shouldn't have stood. Richarlison was offside, and the corner before the corner, which was the goal, there's the hair pull. That's a foul, and the corner shouldn't even happen. So, you can see why they're hard done by in that game. N'Golo Conte missing midfield, that's a big blow. But the good news is that might mean Conor Gallagher gets a game from the start. Conor Gallagher's good enough to play for Chelsea, so get him in the team. Let's find out now. There's no reason to wait. Get him in the team alongside Jorginho and give that a whirl. In this particular game, I can certainly see both teams scoring. I can certainly see that because I think there's still issues with Chelsea defensively. I don't know who's going to play there this weekend. Koulibaly looks good going forward, but a bit of a basket case defensively last week. Thiago Silva, he looks his age at times. Balls over the top to Rodrigo. It's going to be a real issue for him. So look, in this game, I would be looking at both teams score. I'd be looking at Chelsea go on to win it. I'd be looking at the scores being level at halftime. Chelsea go on to win it as the game goes on. And I wonder about Raheem Sterling here as well, because I think Raheem Sterling has been good, but not been as good as I think he can be. I would certainly be looking at playing him central forward sooner rather than later for Chelsea. And I would say Raheem Sterling amongst the goals. Both teams score. Chelsea's goals in the second half.
Both teams to score. We have odds 1.87. And Harry, which is who is a Chelsea fan, Chelsea to win 3-1 at Elland Road. Also on Sunday, we have West Ham, Brighton, and we have very good odds for your West Ham. Tom, 2.36, playing at home. It's really interesting. I guess, of course, after that, those two defeats against Man City and Bournemouth, the odds are going up. And also because Brighton, they've done great in this start of the season with 4 points.
Yeah, I mean, look, West Ham, I think you take nothing from Man City. Against Forest, they were the better team, right? So I'm not wildly concerned about West Ham as yet. They've got some tough games to come against Tottenham and Chelsea. But the season needs to get going for West Ham. Sooner rather than later, but I'm never concerned about the league table until you get 10 games in. I still fancy West Ham for a minimum of a top half finish this year. But some players need to start firing. Jarrod Bowen's not done it at all in the opening 2 games. He looked poor. Antonio has looked poor. Benrahma looked good last week, but didn't actually deliver any numbers, which is kind of Benrahma's whole deal. It looks good. Did he score? No. Did he set anyone up? No. Well, there you go. And Declan Rice and Thomas Soucek in midfield. At the moment, there's something not quite right at West Ham, and I think they need to work it through over the next couple of weeks. We're recording before the Conference League game on the Thursday. I wonder how Scamacca got on. I wonder how Max Cornet got on. I think Thilo Kehrer is a very good signing at centre-half to play alongside Kurt Zouma. So look, West Ham should win this game, right? West Ham should win this game against Brighton, who absolutely have been impressive the first couple of weeks. But player for player, is there many you'd put in West Ham's team from Brighton? I don't think so. We might have a discussion about 1 or 2, but I think you're looking at West Ham having a stronger squad than Brighton. The trouble is, this is a bit of a football gods game. West Ham's last win against Brighton was 2012. In the Championship, They beat them 6-0. In the Premier League, they have never beaten Brighton. They are winning in games, and they lose to Brighton. They concede first more often than not to Brighton. They have been thrashed at this stadium by Brighton. They just can't beat them. And it's weird. And it's one of those weird football things, like players always score against certain teams. West Ham don't beat Brighton. So don't discount the draw market here at 3.5. And frankly, as a West Ham fan, I wouldn't bet on West Ham to win. For that reason, the omens aren't there. So the draw at 3.5 is very, very nice here. Frankly, Brighton to win is quite nice here. But if we're being sensible, and we're looking at the two teams, and we're looking at how important this game now is to West Ham, considering what's coming up, I think you've got to look at West Ham win. I think you look at West Ham score from a corner, and they keep the score low. So I look at West Ham win under 1.5, which is 1-0, but double chance at draw on West Ham is also a real viable scoreline here.
I have to say, Tom, that I remember you saying the exactly same things about these two teams when they've met in the London Stadium. And at that point, West Ham was way stronger. Brighton was way weaker. And at the end, West Ham were unable to beat Brighton. So listen to Tom and perhaps pick a double chance for Brighton, even if most of the people here think that West Ham will win this game. For instance, Alexander says that this is the best bet for the weekend, West Ham to beat Brighton.
Yeah, not for me. Not for me. That's not a safe bet. That won't be my safe bet, guys.
All right, let's try the next one. Newcastle Man City is almost always a safe bet to back Guardiola's Man City because probably they will win the league easily this season. It looks like this: 6 goals scored, no goals conceded in this start of the season. Perhaps now they have a little bit more trouble against Newcastle. 4 points for them. So good start for the North English team. Tom, can you see trouble finally for Man City or not really?
No. There's 114 points to play for in the Premier League. They're going to win 114 points. Like, just bet on them. This is like the antithesis to last year's Norwich bet. There's no week where I'm not going to pick Man City to win. So you might as well put them in now. They're going to win every week. And they're going to win 32 of their 38, realistically. They've won 27 of their last 33 Premier League away games. Like, it's insane, right? It's an insane amount of points. In their last 11 Premier League games, they've scored at least twice in every game. So even the thing last year where they weren't really thrashing teams, even that's gone now. Back end of last season, start of this. So, look, I'll start with Man City briefly. They're going to win. And they're going to score at least 2 goals. And they're going to win by at least 2 goals. So there's your bet. Bet on them to win. Like last week, I said to you over 3.5 against Bournemouth. That came in, gave us a nice win there. I'll be doing the same again this week. Go for City to win here. And they score over 2.5. Don't go over 3.5. Go over 2.5. In the game, I wouldn't go against over 3.5 because I think Newcastle have looked good this year. And full credit to them. Offensively, Callum Wilson. I mean, the goal he scored against Forest, superb finish. I mean, that's elite level finishing from Callum Wilson. Really impressed by Bruno at times this season. I think he looks like he's finally going to be a 90-minute man for Newcastle. They've introduced him real slow, and that's been real good. Joe Linton is about as good a box-to-box midfielder as anyone in the league right now. But defensively, I don't know. I'm not sure about Sven Botman yet. I think he played all right at Brighton last week, but I'd have my concerns about him. And those around him too. Matt Target, I don't know. Certainly Nick Pope being in goal is a very good signing. But look, they're playing against Man City. I think Newcastle will score 1. The atmosphere at St. James is always fantastic. It will be again. But go for Man City win and go for the game to be over 3.5 goals. City to score over 2.5. And as every week this year, that would have failed last week, feel free to double it up with an Erling Haaland goal if you want to.
Armin is asking, Tom, let's see if you know why Newcastle is not going shopping in this summer because they have the money to do it.
Well, I mean, they've been quite smart, I think, this summer in some of the signings they've brought in. Nick Pope, Matt Target, Sven Botman. I think they'll all come good if they haven't been at their absolute best so far this season. But it seems like they are very conscious, for some reason, of financial fair play. I think they're still trying to find ways to backdoor money into the club. You know how, like, Man City might sign a manager like they did with Mancini to a consultancy work at one of their other clubs, then pay them more money there to get around financial fair play, allegedly, and all this sort of stuff. So I think Man City have found a way to bring money into the club. And I think the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia will do that with Newcastle. But right now they haven't. And they are wary right now because there is a general feeling they shouldn't own the club. There was a general feeling that the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia should not be allowed in terms of fit and proper, right? I don't want to get too into it here, but they shouldn't own the club. That's a general feeling that's had in football and around the world. They do, and they might be a bit like, well, do we want to bring any more heat onto ourselves? And that might well be part of it. But I expect gradually, over the next 3 seasons, 6 windows, they will spend upwards of 400 million. But they're going to do it gradually. And I think that's probably a good thing to do for the team as well.
Okay, talking about money, talking about going shopping, let's talk about Man United. Playing against Liverpool, Man United are shopping in Madrid. Joao Felix, Casemiro, let's see what happens, because the team is right now in flames with 2 defeats in the first 2 games, as we all know. And let's see also what happens with Cristiano Ronaldo. And now they face Liverpool, also bad start for them, only 2 points with the start. Darwin Núñez being sent off, asking for an apology after this header. And everyone expects here, I guess, Liverpool to thrash Man United as they did last season, perhaps not as they did. Remember, it was a 0-5 in Old Trafford, 4-0 in Anfield. This summer they played in Thailand, 4-0 for Man United. So recently we've seen a lot of goals in this big game.
Yeah, I mean, with Man United, they might be linked with Casemiro and Joao Felix and all these guys, but they're not going to be signed by Monday. So you've got to go with the same squad that were embarrassed by Brentford and Brighton over the first 2 weeks. Well, beaten by Brighton, embarrassed by Brentford is more fair. I don't even know where to start here. Lisandro Martinez can't play. I'd sell him already. That's not going to happen. Varane's got to come in. I would change both centre-halves if possible. I don't know if Lindelof is available for this one. He had a knock, which I think means they're trying to sell him. But I'd start Lindelof and Varane as my centre-half pairing and get rid of Martinez and Maguire, even for this week and maybe for longer. If you could change everybody, I think I would. Fred was diabolical last week, but McTominay was just as bad when he came on. But one of them has to play because no one else plays in that position. You can't play Christian Eriksen and Bruno Fernandes in midfield together. No, just don't do it. You can't do that. Certainly not Brentford away and certainly not Liverpool at home. And up front, you know, what's happening with Ronaldo, you know, this whole thing this week, none of the stories are true, but does he want to leave? Who knows what the truth is? But you certainly, if he really wants out, can't play him in this game because you've got to try and get rid. But then you play Martial instead. Rashford was the worst player on the pitch, and that's really saying something against Brentford last week. And Jadon Sancho, I mean, has he even signed for Man United? Is he actually there? Like the whole thing, it's mad. And then you throw in Erik ten Hag, who, he's so charmless. I'm really surprised how charmless this man is. Like, he is just so, at the moment, coming across. I've not met him personally as yet, but he's coming across as a real embittered, angry, petulant person. And he's winning nobody over. The football's awful. His attitude's awful. And nobody wants to play for Miss Trunchbull. One for the hardcore Roald Dahl fans there. So, look, I don't know. I don't know what to advise here. I couldn't tell you. I wouldn't go Man United win. I wouldn't go Man United win for all the tea in China at this moment in time. And also, look at these odds. Where are we? Look at these odds. 5-1 to Man United to win. I tell you this all the time. I tell you our viewers all the time. Man United to win is always low. Even when they're rubbish, it's low because casual fans putting a flutter on at the weekend always bet on Man United because they're a name they've heard of. I know it sounds mad, but that's part of gambling markets. They're 5-1. That means even your granny, who knows nothing about football, currently knows that Man United are crap, right? And that is massive. That's a massive thing. In terms of Liverpool, underwhelming the first week against Fulham. They played well against Palace on Monday, but they were stung by a brilliant goal. And the question is, how are they going to score? And I think it might be a good thing for this that Darwin Núñez is suspended. Why? Because it's not quite working with Salah, Núñez, and Luis Diaz. It didn't work. Something wasn't right. I'm sure it will come, but now as we speak, it isn't right. We hear Roberto Firmino should be fit. I think he comes back into the team. Firmino, Luis Diaz, Salah, that makes sense. The midfield's going to be an issue because Jordan Henderson, Fabinho, and Harvey Elliott. Is that strong enough? I don't know. I don't know. I think they might be short in that position. There's some talk Naby Keita might want to leave. Frankly, if he can't get in this team right now, he should leave because he's got no future. So look, what should we do? What should we do here? Because we can't make any money out of this game, really. It's going to be real tough to make any money out of this game. You're obviously going to go Liverpool win, right? You have to go Liverpool to win. I wouldn't go both teams to score. So I'd be looking at Man United 0 in all scenarios here. You could go exact score if you like. I never advise that. But if you look at even at 3-0, you're going to get no better than about 9-1. That's no good. That's no good. So look, what do? We're going to make some money. What are we going to do? Go for a big Liverpool win. That's what you do. I think at least 2-0 to Liverpool here, but I'd get brave. I'd go Liverpool win, and I'd go above 2.5 goals just for Liverpool to win. And I just don't see any scenario for Man United. I mean, I think 3-0 is actually 13-1. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. And I don't advise correct scores, but that's the only way you're going to make money here, because 1.6 is nothing. It's not worth your time. So go over 2.5, Liverpool win, and the exact score, 3-0, 13-1. Do it.
Many times you've been right, not tipping, but suggesting correct score. So 0-3 could be an option, and there is always good money in correct score, although it's very difficult to get it right. For Armin, this is a pass one. Skip this one.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be tough. Well, Tom, this is it. Actually, all 10 games. Still, let me know your safe bet or the one that you are more confident with.
Well, look, I mean, I don't want to give the game away here, but if we're doing safe bets this season, my safe bet is pretty much always going to be Manchester City. Manchester City to win in all scenarios. So it's low odds for them to win. I mentioned in the preview, feel free to double it up with a few goals. I think they'll score above 2.5, above 3.5 maybe. So that might be worth it as last week. But Manchester City will win at Newcastle.
Okay, this is going to be combined in our social media with the other safe bets in the other competition. So we can have a good ACCA, actually, international ACCA. So still, we have to see your ACCA for this match day, Tom.
Now, I know some of the guys here on Oddspedia like to get a bit complicated with their ACCAs, 400 corners and a few red cards and that sort of thing. But I always think an ACCA is a bit of it's a results game. It's a results business. And I think there's a lot of favourites this weekend. So it's quite nice. I normally give you trebles, but I'm going for a quadruple this week of 4 of the so-called Big Six. Tottenham, Arsenal, Liverpool and Manchester City are all going to win at 6-1. That's my ACCA.
Okay, I have to confess that I need to ask Alvaro or Danny if they were correct in their ACCAs, because sometimes it's even complicated to know if they were correct or not. Tom, thank you. Pray to Escamaca behind, put some candles, and hopefully he scores some goals in the weekend. Thank you, guys. See you next week, Tom. Bye-bye.